Hello and welcome to episode 51 of Let's Talk Immigration. Um, Activating the Telegram live now. We have a technical difficulty with Facebook today, so people that would normally watch on Facebook are hopefully finding YouTube. And of course, I'm forgetting how to live stream. Nope, there I did it. I'm on live stream on Telegram too. So, I did not set an agenda for what to talk about today. I do have a few things in mind. I'll just get them out there. DV 2025 registration is wrapping up soon, like in a week. So if you are a DV 2020 or 2021 selectee and you're waiting on the Gomez Good Luck Ray appeals to see what happens, establish a plan B here. Okay, go ahead and register and enter DV 2025. It's always good to have more than one path to get what you want. That includes immigrating to the U.S., because that way, if something goes wrong with the primary path, you have a plan B, okay? So I want to encourage everyone that's eligible to register for the diversity visa 2025 program while the registration is still open, okay? A lot of people will message me 2 weeks from now saying, how do I enter the lottery? It's too late. Okay. Group lawsuits. There's a lawsuit that I have filed with my other company called Iqbal versus Blinken in the Eastern District of California. I've recently got a hold of the transcript for the hearing that was on the 13th in that case, where some interesting things happened. The judge seemed to really understand some of the arguments that we made opposing the government's motion to dismiss. This is a lawsuit, or Naveed lawsuit, that is for Pakistani couples, IR1s, waiting on interviews at Islamabad. But something interesting the government attorney said, and you can see this in the transcript if you look around on my tweets or Telegram, the government attorney said, just because there's a backlog growing and they are not issuing that many visas to this category is not unlawful. What would be unlawful is if we completely suspended issuances to a category. Well, the irony of him saying that is, of course, US Embassy Islamabad has effectively done that for family preference categories. So I believe his words before the tribunal have opened up an opportunity for a group lawsuit for family preference categories waiting on interviews at Islamabad. So be looking for an announcement about a lawsuit similar to that, group lawsuit, in the coming weeks. Let me think what else is going on. We have that group lawsuit, Asylum Seekers versus Johnson, has a different last name now. Still waiting on the outcome of the government's motion to dismiss on that case too. So anyway, let me just jump into questions, because I already see questions here, and that would be better than me just trying to remember things. Iqbal. Government filed a declaration today. Going back to Iqbal, the case about Islamabad, government filed a declaration today about the backlog at US Embassy Islamabad. I tried to download it. That's one of the reasons I was late today, and was having tech issues. Have not been able to download that declaration yet. So I'll be sharing that if you follow my Twitter or Telegram or something later today, so you can see what the backlog is actually at US Embassy Islamabad. Okay, let's switch to questions. Sabor says, because there's some cases that people gets. Oh no, I'm going to the second question. First one. Hello, I have a spouse case. I've been waiting in my interview for 10 months or more. And there's a guy in Pakistan. He says that he can get it because he knows someone. Is that true? Okay, so it's funny. I was talking about Iqbal and the declaration I'm going to have right after this Zoom because this applies here. You're going to keep waiting 10 months. I think people are waiting about 18 months for it. Spouses of U.S. citizens. You say spouse case. I don't know if you're a green card holder, so I don't know if this is an R1 or F2A. If it's F2A, you're going to be waiting a lot longer than that. But like I said, group lawsuit may be coming down the road. But this guy in Pakistan who says he can get it because he knows someone there, one of two things are true. He's lying, or he's involved in a visa fraud scheme, which we've seen it happen a couple times. I know one time there was a big prosecution of people doing that out of a U.S. embassy in China. I'm aware of a situation like that happened at Sana'a, Yemen, but they closed the embassy, so I don't think the people were prosecuted. So one of two things are happening. Either he's lying or he's operating in a criminal enterprise, and you do not want to be near him. So stay away from me either way. Okay. So where it says, because there's some cases that people get scammed and they sold their cases to other people. Or is it possible if he could get it because he claimed he knows people inside the embassy? What's your opinion on this? Okay, so yeah, I finished. Stay away from this person. Okay. Omer says, hi, Curtis. Hoping a nice day for you. As you know, there isn't any news about DV cases. Belong to situation. If everything goes good, at least the process will begin in New Year. Am I right? Omar, you are not giving me all the information I need. DV cases, assume you're a DV 2020 or 2021 selectee plaintiff situation, and you're waiting for the outcome of the appeal. So that's true that there's no news about those. If that's the group that you're in. This thing where you're saying at least the process will begin in the new year. I do not have information that says that. If you have information I don't have, maybe you could share it. But to my knowledge, we do not know when the outcome of the appeal will happen. We know that it will happen, but we do not know when it will happen. Speculating about it does not change that. Omer says, I mean, it will take a while, time, at least a couple months. Good luck. You're a good luck plaintiff. Okay. Well, it's already taken 13 months, so I don't know where you're getting this 2 months situation. As I said, speculating about when it will happen does not change when it will happen. Okay, you said, I want to apply for an exchange program. I think it's J1 visa, but in program requirement says if you apply for a green card, you can't apply for this program. Does this include me as a DV 2021 after 4 years? This question is probably better asked on a one-on-one basis. You cannot, even though you were a DV 2021 selectee in the State Department's view, that journey's over. Not the court's view, but in the State Department's view. So you could pursue another visa category, another path to the U.S., whether a non-immigrant visa path like you're talking about or an immigrant visa path if there's one available. However, J1 is unique because there's a 2-year residency situation where you get a J1 visa, but then you have an opportunity to immigrate. You can't for 2 years. Well, in the situation with reserved visas or DVs, you don't have 2 years. So J1, unless that little box is checked that gives you a waiver, is a little tricky. So just keep that in mind. And also, I don't handle J1s. Probably best to consult with someone who handles J1s. Sabor says it's a citizen. Okay, so spouse of U.S. citizen waiting on Islamabad, best thing to do is get them out of Pakistan and get them into a third country with a U.S. embassy that's functioning properly. But if you can't do that, you're going to have to wait at least 18 months and just hope that the world doesn't go crazy in that amount of time, or you don't go crazy. And then Republicans don't get control of the White House. There's no threat of that for a year from now, but a year from now, there is a threat of that, and that could end badly for a lot of hopeful immigrants. Okay. Sarhan says, hello, sir. I'm a DV21 beneficiary and a good luck plaintiff. Thank you for identifying yourself. Normally, I was able to benefit from CISPA, but now I'm 23. If we win the appeal, still, am I going to be able to benefit from CISPA? Sarhan, you ask an excellent question. Unfortunately, I do not have the answer, and here is why. CISPA does not account for situations where judges reserve visas for use beyond the end of a fiscal year. We do not know how the State Department will interpret CISPA in this situation. There was a point in the Gomez litigation where if you look back through all the transcripts in oral arguments one time, Raphael and I were arguing that many of the DV 2020 Gomez class members who are our clients, Mohammed Fong, John Kennedy plaintiffs, would be negatively impacted by CISPA determinations if there was a delay in issuance of visas. And that conversation went on for about 15 minutes. And one thing was clear after the end of that 15 minutes, neither the judge nor anyone on that call knew how CISPA is going to work in this situation. Everybody left a little confused. I think we have to wait and see how the State Department determines how they will interpret CISPA. And of course, they're not going to even take a position on it or figure it out until we beat the appeal. Support says for marriage cases, if the person has citizenship, they can get it in 18 months or more. Support for marriage cases, IR1s, if the beneficiary is waiting for an interview at most embassies, any embassy in Europe, probably more than 100 of the embassies, they don't have to wait like 2 months for an interview because there's no backlog for this category. You are talking about Islamabad, which is a very unique embassy amongst all the embassies because the backlog is huge and growing because the Blinken has decided to throttle Pakistani immigration. Okay, there's a few ways that that's happening. They understaffed the embassy for a long time. I've recently received information that maybe they're starting to restaff. But even if that's true, starting to restaff doesn't take into account that Kabul is closed. And so this embassy should be doing twice as much staffing, should have twice as much staffing to do twice as much volume because the neighboring country no longer has a U.S. embassy. So there's something going on there. I think it's also related to the Pakistani government limiting the number of consular officers and foreign service officers that are at the U.S. Embassy Islamabad for reasons I do not understand. That's beyond the scope of my understanding. Okay. Sabor says, it's funny, but just wanted to know, is it safe to talk in WhatsApp or is it not safe related to the spouse cases? I would prefer if the Pakistani diaspora would migrate to Telegram. In my view, Telegram is a much safer place to talk because it's not owned by Meta, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, who probably has really close relations with the United States government. But in any event, if you're talking in these groups, either on Telegram or WhatsApp, always assume that there's a consular officer in the group that's observing. It's just a good assumption to make. Sometimes I see people go into Telegram and WhatsApp groups and basically confess to visa fraud or something. And I'm just, what is wrong with you? When there's 1,000 people in a group, you don't know who all of them are. And plus, even if they don't tell on you, if there's not a consular officer in the group, the next time they go to cross into the U.S. and their phone is searched, because Custom and Border Patrol can do that, and they do it to thousands of devices per year, they will get that data and get that information. And so I know this is not your situation. I'm talking generally to people using WhatsApp and Telegram. Do not assume you're having a private conversation unless you're in a room with the door closed and the door doesn't have a vent in it, okay, and the windows are shut and it's just you and that person. That's how you can assume you have a private conversation, not on WhatsApp or Telegram. Okay, just in case says, I like your haircut. Thank you, just in case. That's a cool name, just in case. Okay. Sabor says, I wanted to ask, do you have any information about Qatar US Embassy if transfer my case over there? I am aware that many Pakistani families are choosing to do this by getting the beneficiary a lawful permanent residence visa for Qatar, usually employment visa. I don't know if this has happened yet, but I expect that there will be a backlog at that embassy because it's a much smaller embassy, much understaffed, smaller staffing. So I don't know if it'll work now that it's gone wide and more people are doing it. Okay, but I don't blame you for exploring that for sure. I think that's a good thing to explore. Okay. Omar says, so I apply for it or not? So I go and say no, and in the end, they refuse me. Will affect me if I get my 2NL after we win the appeal and summary judgment because the program is for 2024 July. This is a decision you need to make, Omar. There's no harm in starting the process, and that way, if you get a negative decision on good luck, you know that you can move forward with it. So I would definitely start the process, but there is going to be a decision point where you have to realize that the J1 could compromise your ability to be issued an immigrant visa within the next 2 years. Hello. I'm not sure what question is there. Okay. Abagazim says, I'm DV 2020 Gomez plaintiff. Any news from the Supreme Court? Hi, Abagazim. We are not waiting for news from the Supreme Court. We are waiting for news from the Circuit Court of Appeals for the District Court of Columbia. We do not have any news on that. Sabor says, the problem for me, sir, is that I can't get anywhere else visa due to Afghanistan political issues, and I'm stuck in there. The only option I have is Qatar and Tajikistan. I understand. Well, I would recommend as an Afghan, wait, you're not an Afghan. We're just talking about Afghanistan. Okay. I think that you're wise to pursue and research options to move your beneficiary. Okay, Qatar, Tajikistan, that's fine. Not to Abu Dhabi though. Abu Dhabi backlog way too big. Don't do Abu Dhabi. Okay. Deepak says, what's the reason the Biden administration not withdrawing Good Luck versus Biden case and why still taking time? Okay. The reason the Biden administration is not withdrawing their appeal of the Good Luck versus Biden order and also their appeal of the Gomez order is because they still hold the same beliefs that they had when they filed those appeals. Namely, they believe that the State Department should be able to throttle immigration in a broader sense when the president wants to suspend entry of certain nationals. So if the president, like President Trump, would just say this group, that group, this group can't come in, these groups can't come in. What the State Department wants to do is say, oh, we don't even have to look at this section of people because the president says they can't come in the U.S. we say that's unlawful. That's not what Congress said. Okay. And so that's the dispute. And the Biden administration apparently wants to do everything they can to preserve the State Department's ability to throttle and suspend immigration as a gift for the DeSantis or Trump administration when they come into power next year. Actually, I think that's a cynical view. That I think that the Biden administration is not even aware of the high risk that they are not going to win the re-election. I think that they're living in this land where they think that Republicans are nuts so that they can't win. Republicans are nuts, but they can win the election. So that's my take. You ask why it's still taking time. Appeals take time. That's what appeals are. They take time. Okay. One more says the program began in 2024. If you're still talking about this J1 thing, if I say no while I apply in it, the interview, if they know I apply for green card program and refuse me, does that affect my DV path for visa? There's only one way this would affect your DV path for the visa, two ways. One is you were issued the visa and you came to the US on it. But the other way, and I've seen this happen a lot, and it really bothers me, is Gomez and good luck plaintiffs go to non-immigrant visa interviews. I should say a lot. It's not happened a lot. It's happened more than I want it to. And make a misrepresentation. In their view, it may not be material, but in the State Department, it is material. Who your spouse is, who your children are, whether or not you've applied for a visa before, stuff like this. State Department takes every single answer on the DS-160 very seriously, and the DS-260. So you do not want to make a misrepresentation with the State Department. Very unforgiving agency. So if you make a misrepresentation in a non-immigrant visa interview, guess what? That refusal can follow you and prevent you from immigrating to the U.S. There are some exceptions for if you have a qualifying relative in the U.S., you could get a waiver, but most DVs don't have that. So as long as you're honest with the consular officer, you shouldn't have troubles. So where it says, which country can you suggest for me to transfer my case so that I can get the appointment faster? Sabor, you need to give me a list of countries where your beneficiary has lawful permanent residence. Lawful residence, okay? I need to know more information about you. Like, are you a remote worker? If you are a remote worker, or your spouse is a remote worker, that means works from home on the computer. I do that. You do that. You could get a visa in Spain for 6 months, and pretty sure that's going to be enough to get your spouse an interview at Madrid. Okay, so that's one option. I'm a big fan of that for a couple reasons. First, it's pretty affordable. Second, Spain is wonderful. This would be a good 6 months. You're going to remember it. You're going to tell your children about it. Okay. Sirhan says, in DV 2020, for the ones who got their visa after the fiscal year, are there any case that successfully received the visa by benefiting CISPA? What are you talking about? Nobody got their visa after the fiscal year. It's happened three fiscal years. Judges have reserved visas for the end of fiscal year for issuance after the end of the fiscal year. In the Abercrombie case in 2017, it happened. That case is still pending because it got procedurally behind Gomez. DV 2020, the Gomez class decision by Judge Mehta, and then DV 2021, the orders by Judge Mehta and Judge Scheibken. Those are the 3 times that judges have reserved DV visas for issuance at a later time, and none of those visas have been issued yet. So we don't know if CISPA applies because of the 3 times that visas have been reserved beyond the fiscal year. It's a good question, except that that factual scenario does not exist. So there's no way to answer it. Sabor, you're Afghan. That is something that I did not know from the beginning of. That does limit your ability to your beneficiary's ability. I'll tell you what. Message me. I might know somebody that can help. Okay. Rashila says, "Hello, sir. I have a dream 2 days ago, and we won the case in Court of Appeals. It's nice. My dream always comes through, though. God over everything. Well, I hope your dream comes true also. And I'm glad that you're all having positive dreams. I had dreams about the electronic filing system for the courts and judges yelling at me." Okay. Hamza is a good luck plaintiff, and he wants to know if being a plaintiff in a lawsuit could be a reason of refusing the visa. Hamza, the answer is no. Now you're talking about, I'm guessing, you're talking about a non-immigrant visa to the U.S., like a B1, B2 visitor visa, or an F1 student visa, or J1 researcher, or H1B employment, or something like that. And just being a plaintiff, it's no problem at all. That's part of the American way, is suing the government. That's what we do here. Nobody's going to hold that against you. There's not going to be any retaliation for that. Now, here's where it could cause a problem. If you go into a non-immigrant visa interview and they say, have you ever tried to immigrate to the U.S.? And you say, no. Well, you have, right? And there's a question on the DS-160. It asks, has anyone filed a petition for you? The way that question is asked, it's ambiguous, so I think you're okay either way, but I prefer people to say yes and then clarify diversity visa selectee 2021. You don't have to put that you're a plaintiff. That's not relevant to the question. So the answer to your question is being a plaintiff in a lawsuit, reason to refuse a visa, no, but misrepresenting that you were a selectee is. But you wouldn't do that anyway, Hamza, so we don't have to worry about that. Sabor, what information related to spouse case is not safe to share with others? I can think of lots of examples, but I'm not going to share them here, okay? There are lots of reasons why someone could be found ineligible to enter the U.S. You would not want to share information publicly that would indicate that your spouse is ineligible to enter the U.S. So, okay. 2020 selectee. Are we among the priorities for interview and visa issuance? No. First of all, not all 2020 selectees are Gomez class members. The 2020 selectees that are Gomez class members are the ones that were not issued a visa before April. So priorities for interviews and visa issuance. The 2020, okay. There were 9,095 visas reserved by Judge Mehta on September 30th, 2020. There were about 40,000 class members, Gomez class members. Some people, reasonable people, would argue with that and say that there's 30,000. Okay. There's many more Gomez class members than there are visas. That's the first thing to understand. Second thing to understand, the implementation of the order has been stayed. That means it's frozen. It's on hold until the outcome of the appeal. The Biden administration basically said, oh, we don't like this order. We don't want to give these visas. And so we're waiting to see what the appeals court says about that. So you need to be patient, Freedom Sands. Okay. Omar says, so the best way is waiting a little bit more, hoping to get some more news soon. Well, the best way, as I said at the beginning of this, is pursue every route that you have to get what you want. That's the opposite of what you're saying here. So I'm just saying, be mindful of the challenges and nuances with the things that you're pursuing. So Morris said, should I email you, sir? That's fine. Curtis at morrisonmarina.com. I dropped it in chat. Oh, and it ended up on the screen. I have a great team. Homer says, the people should now, our cases is not only about immigration, it's about the authority of judges and the precedent powers between power and authority. It's a big deal. Correct me if I'm wrong. Omar is an important case, but it's not the only important case before the Circuit Court of Appeals for the District Court of Columbia. There's a lot going on in the U.S. in courts, okay? In the District Court of Columbia, in that circuit, I know they're dealing with a lot of criminal cases related to the people that tried to overthrow our government, led by Trump back in January 6, 2021. So many other issues also. It's the one that pops in my head. So just because the issue is important, and it doesn't mean it's the only issue. Lots of important issues before the appeals court. Ekim says, how can you contact me? The email address that popped up on the screen. Yeah. Hamza says, I mean, in case we won the appeal, does the officer will ask a question like, why did you file a lawsuit against the government? No, the officer's not going to ask that question. That doesn't make sense. If we win the appeal, the government's going to have to issue 6,914 good luck visas. I don't think that they would try to decide who to issue them to based on the reason that they joined the lawsuit, because all 6,914 visas have to be issued to people that join the lawsuit. That's the way DV 2021 good luck played out, right? But if the consular officer asks you a question, just ask her honestly. Why did you file a lawsuit? Because I wanted to preserve my rights. There's a couple visa applicants I'm aware of in Africa who, when the consular officer asked that question, why did you file a lawsuit against the government? The answer is, well, you recommended that I contact Curtis Morrison. True story. Okay. Yep, that's my email address. That's a lot of questions. Really fast, too. Thank you for joining episode 51. Next Wednesday is episode 52. That means a full year of Let's Talk Immigration. That's a lot of immigration talk. Hope you can make it. Maybe there'll be cookies. Maybe there'll be donuts. I'm not sure. Have a good weekend. And be safe out there.